Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Brubaker. I'm looking for a new title for myself, but at the moment, I'm calling myself a career transition specialist or career transitions coach because it's not really job search coaching. It's really trying to highlight what your skills are and then help you use those skills to transfer into your next forever job. Now, as many of you know, I don't believe in forever jobs anymore, and we'll talk about that later because that's part of the topic for today is that whole idea of job gaps. But what we want to do is we want to be here to provide you with support. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself to get started. I have over 20 years worth of experience as a recruiter, both inside and outside companies, so headhunter as well as an internal recruiter. In addition, I have experience, again, that extra 20 years as both an HR business partner and a hiring manager. And I've been a dedicated job search coach now for the last 8 years. Actually, next week is full 8 years. Um, what I wanted to tell you too is that this is really what my passion is. I do this as a free offering. It's my give back. And I support it with the job search coaching or the career transitions coaching that I do. So if you're interested in that, I will put my information in the chat. That's my only plug for me during this session because I really want this to be about you and what we can do to support you. That said, I'm going to turn the show over to show. I'm going to turn the screen over to Sue Griffey, who is here when she can, and she's here to support you as well. And I wanted to give her that opportunity to introduce herself.
Thanks, Linda. It occurred to me as we were arriving at BWI last night at 12:30 a.m. that I hadn't let you know last week I was going to be gone. I'm back now. I come here even if I'm tired. Actually, I'm in great shape for today. And I'm here to support you as Linda does. I know as Sue mentors in the virtual world. I have a global mentoring consultancy, which means I work with people all over the world. I'm heavily organized right now towards the US with a lot of people out of federal agencies and federal service agencies, such as I'm doing education now, health, NIH, CDC, USAID for federal employees and all the contractors as well. So it's interesting that the last cohort course that I just started a couple of days ago is over 2/3 US based folks, which has been unusual. I love doing this, but mostly because it lets me celebrate in real time. And for those watching replay, the mentor with pom poms. Linda, Brenda, Ken, all of names may be familiar to some of you who I've known from different groups. We celebrate your small wins, even when it doesn't feel like a win. Showing up today is a huge step towards mentee coaching, transition readiness. You're making the steps. Can you always get here? No. Sometimes you need the pity party. Sometimes you need to just attend to those job applications. But we're here to support you. And as Linda said, I come when I can. And thanks, Linda. Happy to be back.
I hope you had a great trip. Okay, so as Sue said, one of the things we do is we start by talking about wins. So if you have a win to share, and a win can be you got an interview and it went nowhere, you heard back from someone, you had a successful round, whatever it is, you felt good about something in your job search over the last week, we would love to hear about it. So please raise your digital hand and let's celebrate you and talk about what you did. Hey, David.
Okay. Yesterday, I had an in-person interview at an Ohio Health building for a physician office specialist position. I think I was really able to connect with this interviewer. She actually gave me a tour of the exam rooms and the nurses station. And she asked me what I do in my spare time, and I told her I like to play Scrabble, and she liked it too. So she thought that was an indicator of being a sharp mind. And in the last 10 minutes, I actually shadowed some of the fellow people on the front desk who were greeting patients and handing them urine sample cups and things like that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sherry.
Good morning, Linda. I don't know if this is much of a win as much as it is a challenge. So, a third party, I'm working with a third party recruiter. Interviewed with the owner, hiring manager, 2 hours last week, then a 30-minute phone call, and then 2 hours yesterday. And when the recruiter called me on Monday to tell me, to schedule the interview, I asked about my competition, and she said, we didn't submit anybody else. You're the best. And I'm like, cool. So I met him yesterday, 2 hours again. And, the job description gave, the top end of the salary. And when he, and the job description also mentioned 1 week of vacation, which, after all the experience that I've had over the years, I feel that 1 week of vacation time is really like not even, coming close to what I want and need. So anyway, so yesterday during the interview, he's talking about this. First, he said that, nobody is salaried at his company. Everybody's hourly. And so he mentioned the hourly rate that he's willing to pay, and it's significantly lower than what, my skill set offers. And he wouldn't budge at all on the, what do you call it? The vacation. He said that his employees would come to him and say, why does the marketing lady get 3 weeks of vacation and we only get 1? So while we were talking, he held up a piece of paper to his face, was reading it. On the back of it, there was a Post-it note that said, that it looked like it was written to himself, that said, send offer letter. But, the challenge is, yes, I need a job. I need to pay my bills and so on and so forth. But the market value that I am worth is significantly higher than what he's willing to offer. So that's basically my win, I guess you could call it, but more of a challenge for this week.
So I understand that. The idea is that there's often, unfortunately, a disconnect, Sherry, between what our market value is and the experience that we bring and what the job is. And that's terrible. It's a shame, but companies pay for the market value for their role. In terms of the vacation policies are often set by the company, and he's right. If he offers you more than he offers anybody else in that role or anybody who's been there longer, not only could he be liable for suit, okay, but he would have an uprising on his hands.
Right.
So he can't do that.
Right.
The issue of salary may be something different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would talk to your recruiter, especially if you're working with an outside recruiter, to see whether or not there's any flexibility there and what he can do to help you. Because remember, that outside recruiter will be paid on what you're paid.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it is to his or her best interest to help increase that salary level.
I did talk to her immediately after my interview, and, she feels the same way I do, that, he's basically lowballing the situation.
So I would counter if you do get an offer.
I did.
Have you gotten an offer yet?
No, I don't think I will.
You may not. Okay. You think because you pushed too hard on the salary issue or on the vacation issue?
Possibly, yeah.
So how much of a difference was there? Forget the vacation, because the vacation won't change.
The difference between his and mine was about $7 an hour.
Okay. Which is significant. So
Yeah.
$7 an hour times, yeah. By the way, if you're figuring out your hourly versus salary,
2080 times the hourly rate.
2080 is the number of hours in a standard year. For those who don't know, it's exactly right, Sherry. So yes, that's significant. In Illinois, you're right, Dominique, that there is a law that says you have to list the salary on all job postings.
It was,
Even if it's coming from an outside recruiter.
it was on
Okay.
there.
It was on there, but
Mhm.
you chose to apply anyway, even knowing what the range was.
Well, it gave it said top salary, and then it gave there was no range. It just said the top salary. And even with the, overtime with, projected overtime of say 5 hours a week, it was like $8,000 below or more.
What you were offered or what you want?
$8,000 below what he offered me versus what the job description was posted as.
Okay. So the Illinois law, like many of them, unfortunately, and Illinois right now is one of 13 states that requires that if a company has 15 employees or more. They have to list a salary range on the posting, both for internal and external jobs. That said, we're hoping that they're going to be realistic ranges. The law is written in a way that says that they should be, but there's no guarantees. In any event, yes, you can go back. You can always go back and try and renegotiate salary based on what it is, based on your reading of the market value of your skill set, the market value that you bring to the company, okay, and see whether or not you can get it raised at all. And if you can't, then you need to make the decision as to whether or not the job itself is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My recommendation to all of you is remember that you are hiring your next boss, your next company. I know that you need a job. I know you want a job. And Sherry, I know you want a job quickly. If you're taking a job that is not, if you choose to walk away, then I would say congratulations, because you're putting yourself first and your market value first.
Right. And I feel that, like I said, I feel that he's not undercutting, lowballing the situation. But also that more importantly than anything is, if this is how I'm being treated now, how is it going to be? What's going to be the situation later? Is he going to cut my overtime? Is he going to say you can't have any overtime? So, I'm just, I'm not going to even at this point, go back to him. My recruiter already knows how I feel. If he sends something, he sends something. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
That's fine. And I think that's actually a wise move on your part in terms of recognizing what's important to you. And you're right. The idea of, how are you being treated during this process also talks a little bit about how you would be treated and how employees would be treated during their time with the company.
Right.
It's one of the reasons that it's so important to do some informational networking, reach out to people who work there before an interview, during the interview process, or people who haven't worked there are more likely to give you honest answers, okay? They've been there and then they left, to find out more about that company culture. But put yourself first, and if it doesn't feel right, walk away, but still count it as a win.
Thank you.
Sure, let us know what happens.
Linda,
I saw another hand up and I
Yeah.
lost it.
It
Who was
was
it?
mine. I just put it down. I'm sorry. My question builds on Sherry's. I mean, when is it worth, and maybe everyone's different, and I'm sure that's part of the answer, but when is it worth taking a job to just have a job and then continuing to look versus, understanding that this isn't an ideal fit, but it's tiding you over? And maybe that's the answer in the phrasing I'm using.
So that honestly depends upon your own situation. If you think that there's something that you can learn from the new job, okay, and it is something that you want to add to your resume, you've been out of work for a while, that new job may help you, not only in terms of additional networking, but visibility and that additional skill set. Do you take something that is beneath you? That's probably the wrong word to use, but but taking something that is not something you necessarily want, I call that a survival job or a transitional job. If you're taking it because you either need to pay a bill, that's a survival job. or it's a transitional job until you get to your next role. In either case, you are going to be continuing to look for the next right fit. Okay? Absolutely. Okay. And if you want information or advice about how to talk to people about what that looks like, okay, in terms of an interview response, why are you leaving your current job? Whether you put it on LinkedIn, whether you put it on your resume, depends on a variety of different factors. But yes, absolutely, it can help you move on. And you want to talk about it privately? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Anyone else have a quick one to share? I see. All right.
I do, Linda. It's Marianne.
I know. I see you.
Okay. You are such a spirit booster. I come to these to get inspired every Wednesday.
Good.
So, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I worked with an agency and had a very short-term temporary job that didn't work out for all sorts of reasons. It was basically a personality conflict with the woman that I was reporting to. Anyway, the agency reached out to me and said, "Hey, we might have a role for you. Do you know anyone that's interested?" And I said, "I'm interested." So this woman and I, and she's now a partner at this firm. So she's got a big, heavy title, which is cool. And she wants to promote me as a job candidate, which is great. So I got everything I needed to get to her yesterday, and then we're going to see what happens moving forward. That's all I know at this point.
Congratulations. Now, you
Yeah.
also had a couple of things in the works last week that you shared. What's going on with those?
So let me see. I can't remember what I do from moment to moment these days. I was on a panel to give job seekers advice on how to find jobs, which I thought was really ironic. Anyway, that went well. I had a couple people reach out to me, and yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't want work to be the major focus of my life these days, which unfortunately it is because it's a financial issue. But if I just focus on work, I get very cranky because I don't have work. So I got to broaden my horizons a little bit here. Oh, I got a private client, by the way, too, for a referral that someone did for me
Private client for,
to help out with her immigration situation. Not her,
Excellent.
but her husband that she's trying to bring to the United States, which is taking forever and is only going to get worse under our current administration, unfortunately.
I understand that completely. I know several people in the same situation.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm good today.
Congratulations. Keep us posted.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Jim, can you turn your camera on?
All right, I'll do it this time.
I know.
Problem is, I'm looking at the other screen and the camera's in the screen in front of me.
I know. I've got a screen off to the side, so I understand too. There you are.
Oh, sorry. So, the question about taking a job just to, have something. I did that a long time ago, and I made some connections. I ended up at this one place. It wasn't so great, but then the agency sent me somewhere else, and I made some connections, and that's how I landed my last full-time role that lasted almost 10 years. So, it's like you said, it depends on how important it is to you. And, just keep in mind, you could make other connections there too.
You could, and you can get some current referrals. You can get some current recommendations, endorsements. Okay. All of those are good things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Linda, everybody.
Hey, Stephen.
I have a interview tomorrow with one of my target companies. It is a panel interview with the hiring manager and some other colleagues that are either peers of hers or maybe possibly even work for her. So it's a total of 4 individuals that I'll be interviewing with. This is the company that I networked my way in through former colleagues I used to work with at a previous company. And one of a hiring manager for another position was nice enough to hop on a call with me to do an informational interview, a little bit about the company. That position ended up not going anywhere as of yet. And I applied for another one. And now this is the one that I'm going to be interviewing for tomorrow. So it is I'm in a I think I'm in a good spot, and hope everything goes well.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Anybody else have a quick win?
I have one more thing I want to add.
Absolutely.
I have been having a few tech issues recently, and so I actually went into the Apple Store yesterday and met with a genius at the Apple Store. I cannot say enough good things about the geniuses at the Apple Store. They're amazing. They all need a raise.
Well, I'm
Seriously.
glad you got your tech issues solved. Tech issues happen to all of us, so I understand. In any event, but giving people thanks, whether they're here, whether you're just sharing that, that's always a good thing. People like to work with people they know, like, and trust. And hearing that social proof, whether it's a recommendation, a referral, an endorsement, a comment on their LinkedIn posts, sharing those ideas, all of those, okay, helps to encourage other people to do things. And it's a wonderful way of paying it forward. So thank you, Marianne. Anyone else? Quick win. Anybody new to the group today? If you are, please put new in the chat and raise your hand. Put new in all caps so we can find you. Okay, and then raise your digital hand. Greg, would you like to introduce yourself to the group? Tell us a little bit about what you're looking for, okay, and where.
Sure. So my name is Craig Cole. I've been in and out of these sessions over the years. So I'm a nonprofit lifer. So I've spent 30 years in the nonprofit sector here in Washington, D.C. Mostly. I can do a little bit of everything in a nonprofit. I used to lead a nonprofit, a small one. And so really what I'm looking for now is a continuation of that. I think one of my challenges has been the last position I had was not a great fit. That's what they told me on the way out the door. That lasted 7 months. Before that, I had a contracting position with another charity that didn't work out either. And so I've kind of been bouncing a little bit here and there for the last 4 years. So it's been, so when you talk about the gaps, it's like, so that's one of my challenges, is trying to figure out how to explain away explain away 3 different positions that didn't quite work out in the last few years.
I understand. So we will definitely talk about that in a little bit. Okay, remind me. Well, it also sounds like we need to do a session on what people are starting to call portfolio careers.
Right.
Okay, in other words, but that's true. It's the idea of you having a lot of different small roles that all build together to find that next role, that all highlight and build on the skills that you have. Right. Okay. Some people call it serial entrepreneurship. Okay. Some people call it that portfolio career. Some people call it contracting, but there are lots of ways that we can talk about it, both on your resume, your profile, your application materials, okay, and most importantly, your interview stories.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, you just said portfolio careers, and I just remembered Ken Lang has a portfolio careers discussion tomorrow night. May I post that link in the chat?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, because otherwise I'd have to find it.
There you go.
Perfect. So we've got a group. Ken Lang is another job search coach. And one of the things that we've been doing for the last several months is that a group of us coaches, support people, have been getting together to talk about this whole idea of portfolio careers. And we're at a stage now where we would love to have those of you who are in those kinds of serial roles. Jim, you've been there before. Come in and join us for those conversations. And what we'll try and do as well is make sure that we have one of those discussions here as part of our lunch and learn groups. In fact, one of the things that I want you to do is in the chat, okay, please put in your ideas, all in caps, just say idea for either upcoming speakers or topics, because we want to make sure that these sessions work for you. In addition, I put together a Google Sheet that you are welcome to. Anyone who has this link can go in and edit, add information about topics that you'd like to see, about speakers you'd like to have. I put that information into our private group as well. And we've already had at least one person go in and put some of that information in there about some topics that he'd like to see. And I think that was Chris. Was that you? Yep. So thank you. Perfect. And Brenda's right. If anybody's thinking about that role for self-employment, reach out to Brenda Miller. Brenda is also going to be having new sessions on the first Friday of every month to help people who are or want to be self-employed in the process. I'm going to be there. And if you're thinking about some of those things, please join us. Okay, Sue, I think you're going to be there too. Okay, thanks, Brenda, for putting these together and for putting the link there. Brenda, when you get the information in terms of the registration link, can you add that too? That would be great. Or send it to me and I'll pass it along. Okay, all right. Anyone else new to the group? And let's get started talking about the topic itself. We've actually been doing it already. That whole idea of how do you deal with, boy, I've got those job gaps. We know that all of us have them. Okay, I don't know about you, but I've had 5 layoffs during the course of my career and some job gaps in between. So it's important to make sure that you understand why those are taking place and that you share that information with everybody else. Everybody has a gap. Or I shouldn't say that. Almost everybody has a gap. So if you've had a gap before, tell me how many times in the chat, how many times have you been laid off? Just put a number in there. Okay. So many of us have them. Even the hiring managers, recruiters have them. Whether it's a layoff, whether you've lost a job for another reason, whether you've chosen to take time off to do other things. Okay. You might be to raise your kids. It might be to take care of someone else. It might be to go back to school. It might be for any one of a number of reasons. Okay. Many of us have had interim jobs as well, those transitional jobs, those survival jobs. Companies recognize, recruiters recognize that when a job goes away, and jobs are going away all the time, not just in the federal sector, but in every sector, that you're not going to find a job right away. One of the things that's important is to continually be looking, which is one of the reasons that I mentioned that if you're taking that survival, that temporary, that job that isn't exactly the right fit, if you're taking a contract job, continue to look. It's important to do that. While we're doing that, by the way, if you are in the federal sector or have been in the federal sector, there are some additional resources for you. I just added those into the chat as well. We know that the number of people who are losing their jobs, as I said, is increasing every day. Every time I go into my news feed, there's another layoff. Illinois just people in Illinois, how do I phrase this? There have been over 3,500 people laid off in Illinois in the last week, based on WARN notices and other things. So we know that those happen. So there are a couple things that we can do. The first has nothing to do with your own career gaps, but when you see a job out there, if it's the right job for you, absolutely go ahead and apply. If it's not the right job for you, if you see something in your news feed, share it, comment, make sure that it gets visible to other people as a way of being able to pay it forward. We're all trying to help everybody else get back to work. You can share those jobs in our private group, and I think I put the link to our private group in the chat. I'll do it again in a moment. But you can also just do it in the news feed at LinkedIn as well. It's another way of not only making yourself visible, but it's a way of sharing that with other people. And if you're sharing the job, always ask who else might be interested, okay? Or share it with your network that way. If you're reached out to by a recruiter and it's not the right fit for you, try and give that recruiter another name to contact. It's, again, your way of keeping yourself visible, making yourself a viable candidate, somebody that they can work with, want to work with, because you're providing them with support and resources too. That they're much more likely to want to continue to work with you. So when you're telling them, this isn't the right job for me, but please contact so-and-so. And oh, by the way, I would love to talk to you about jobs like X, Y, and Z. May I send you my information on a generic basis? Love to talk to you. You're open for a 10-minute conversation? Let's chat. So there are lots of ways of doing that. Susan.
I was just going to comment on the number of phony recruiters that have been reaching out to me. And by phony, they're from India or Timbuktu or whatever. And they have 3 followers or 50 followers. Any reputable recruiter is going to have hundreds, potentially thousands of recruiters. They're coming out of the woodwork. So just be careful.
Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. The number of recruiters, fake jobs, fake recruiters has absolutely increased. I got 3 messages on my personal cell phone this week, as well as 2 on my business line from recruiters telling me, I have a job opportunity. Would you like to talk about it? Right? We know that those recruiters are out there. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of, not a good way to really block them. If anybody has any suggestions on how to block them from coming in, what I normally do is I will block the message. I will report it as spam. If it's coming in on my phone, I do that. And so I don't see it from at least that phone number anymore. I report it to LinkedIn. I block them on LinkedIn. But checking out their profile is absolutely a good way. And I'll come back to my comments again after Brenda. Okay, Brenda, you want to, there you go.
Hey, I'm out walking the dog. It's a little chilly in Michigan today. I just wanted to say, echoing what you were saying about reporting it first. What I like to do is report the comment first to LinkedIn. The second thing I would do is look at having connections. If there's anyone that you know that is also connected to that recruiter, you let them know, hey, it looks like this person is fake, and then block them. So reporting flags it up to LinkedIn. The more reports a person gets, the more likely it'll be to get that account taken down. And blocking will prohibit them from seeing you from seeing them. So make sure you report it first, alert common connections second, and then block them.
Great idea. I hadn't thought about the alert and common connections, so that's a good one. Thank you. Jay.
Hi, Linda. Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing along those lines. Not only people, texting cell phones to use for job advertisements, but you also find that with college and universities. Sometimes they say that your profile looks like a good fit for this type of degree, but you yourself have never gone to that college, or may not have even gone through their courses. You're not even part of the education. So how is that colleges are able to get access to your profile when you may not even have gone to their college themselves?
So anybody can get access to a profile. If you've made your profile open to everyone, and you should, okay, whether you're in job search or doing anything else, then the idea is that anybody can look at it. So that's one thing. But the idea, you don't have to respond to those people. You can block them, you can report them, and you should. If your gut says this isn't a real person, listen to your gut. If the gut says this isn't the real job, listen to your gut. Check out their profile on LinkedIn. Check to see, as somebody mentioned, how many people are there. Okay, Susan, you're right. If they only have 5 or 10 connections, it's not a real person. If you block them, no, you're right. If you block them, they won't see that you looked at their profile. You can also go in and look anonymously to see what's going on. Okay. But you need to make sure that you are paying attention to your gut. The number of fake recruiters out there is increasing phenomenally or incrementally, sorry. And one of the things that we're finding is that a lot of those fake recruiters are going to want additional information from you to see what else is going on. Just because a recruiter is from another company, you're right, Jay, doesn't mean necessarily that it is a fake recruiter. There are a number of sourcing firms, in other words, firms that have been hired to generate a candidate list to send to a recruiter, who are outsourced to companies like India. I must get at least once a month somebody from another country asking if I want them to source candidates for me. Okay. And when I was actively recruiting, I would say it's much more often than that. So just because somebody's out of the country doesn't necessarily mean that it's fake. Double check to see what's going on. Check their profile to see what's out there. Check to see whether or not there is a company page for that company, to see whether or not they are listed. Check to see whether or not there are any jobs specifically listed by them that are also listed on the company website. It's important to check that out. One of the things that I'm hearing from recruiters or from employees, and I don't know whether or not this is true. So anybody who's more of a LinkedIn expert than I am, please chime in. You know, if you worked with me, if you heard me before, that I'm a big proponent of Green Banner, telling people that you're open to work. The Green Banner really does let people in your network, as well as everyone else, know that you're looking for the next opportunity. And if you've put your post together well, not just using their generic post, but really telling people what you're looking for, what your skill set is, okay, where you're looking for that role, that really does not only gain you visibility with those of us who are your connections, but with everyone else, because you want to make that post open to everyone. Everybody's going to see it. And those networking opportunities are going to be more plentiful if you do that well. One of the things that I'm hearing, though, is that if you include that hashtag open to work, as opposed to just the Green Banner, but that hashtag open to work seems to invite a lot more of those fake recruiters reaching out to you, or the salespeople. Okay, looks like you could use some coaching. Raise your hand, right? I don't do that, but a lot of people do. Those are AI generated responses, almost a bot. You don't want that. I don't know whether or not, I haven't gotten any validation as to whether or not including that open to work hashtag in that post will generate those responses, but people that I've talked to say that it has. And that if you remove that open to work hashtag there, it will be less likely. You're also going to find that those open to work spam emails, connection requests, contacts will be much more likely in the first few hours after you make that post. It's another way of telling that it's not real. So I wish there was a better way of working around it. I don't think that those spam calls, in my mind, are worth taking down the open to work. I think that you are much more likely to be contacted by real recruiters, as well as by hiring managers. Okay. And people that you want to network with, if you are including that open to work Green Banner. And our research shows that hiring managers or recruiters are more likely to reach out to you with real opportunities because they know that you're willing to talk. So I would suggest some of that. Okay. You're right, Joan, sometimes within minutes. And again, it's those spam bots, those robots, those AI generated responses that are set to respond anytime they see that. Now, that said, I still do firmly believe in the open to work banner, but I really want to see a good post. If you see any of those from any of the people in our group or elsewhere, I highly suggest, okay, pay it forward, comment, share, ask other people in your network if there's something that you can do to help, if there are any opportunities, and see what happens there as well. Okay, but give us some of that information. The commenting increases their visibility as well as increasing. Okay, so did I miss any comments there that I should have paid attention to regarding that? Oh, one more thing with the open to work banner. We want to make sure that you're putting it on, and that I would recommend that at least once a month you take it off. Take it off for a weekend, for a day, even for a couple of hours, and then put it back up. It generates that interest in the feed again. It reposts it, and it increases that visibility is what you're doing. Okay, perfect. All right. So other questions in terms of that whole idea of dealing with the dreaded job gap. Portfolio careers are one way of doing it. The idea of recognizing, suggesting that you know that you are broadening your approach and talk about it that way. That idea of building that set of skills, that set of companies. One thing that you can do if you have a current gap, LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to say career gap as part of your employment history. My recommendation is not to do that. It's one of those things where LinkedIn gives and then actually takes away. They penalize you for using it. Using the career gap drop down from LinkedIn, unfortunately, doesn't tell people that you have a current employer. And if you've been out of work for 3 months or more, you want to have a current employer listed on your profile. And that current employer could be a variety of different things. It could be that if you're still working, if you have only been out of work for 3 months, keep your old employer there as your current employer. You can change the wording under the job to past tense, but you can still list it as a current employer and it'll show up that way. Now, as putting on my recruiter hat, if you've been out of work for more than 3 months, while LinkedIn would like to see you continue that as a current position, my recruiter hat says, you may not be really honest. Especially because in your resume, you're going to put that end date. And I want to see that consistency. So 3 months is probably okay. Beyond that, I'm not sure that I would say that that's true. Yes, Joan.
Yes, thank you. You just reminded me, I do have a question that I want to ask you. You're the perfect person along those lines. So I've been out for 10 months this month, out of work. And so, and I've kept it open. I kept mine, I kept it open after about 2 months. I mean, I closed the gap after about 2 months. So my question is, I have some training coming up. Probably it's going to start next week. Should I use, I'm struggling as to whether I should use the career break and take the open to work banner off, or have you seen situations where people have used both? What is your, does the career break really help with that algorithm that you were sort of indirectly referring to?
So I would not use the LinkedIn career break. Okay. I think that penalizes you on LinkedIn, at least from everyone that I've been told. And Brenda was one of the ones who told me that. Okay, so be careful with that. Some of the people who use LinkedIn Recruiter will tell you that that career break as your current opportunity is not a good thing. You can, however, put in a number of other things. In fact, okay, Brenda some time ago put together a list of those open to work companies. And Brenda, tell Pepper hi. And if you want to join us again and share that yourself, please do.
Brenda has her hand raised.
I know.
Oh, okay, you're looking for her.
Brenda, can you unmute? Okay, Brenda, when you have that opportunity, please let us know. But in the meantime,
Okay, I think I got it. Can you hear
there
me?
you are.
So sorry. I was in another screen and it wouldn't let me come back in. First of all, I want to say, like, using the open to work, I know there's many people that use that because they are caring for an ill family member, a parent, you know, that's going through a transition or something. And I really feel for you. And I don't want you to feel like, why is LinkedIn penalizing me for using this field? It's not so much, Linda, that I've heard it's a penalty, but rather if you don't have a current organization listed in your experience section, LinkedIn will say you won't come up in as many search results. And what they say is having a current employer means you come up in X% more search results. So if you flip that around, not having a current employer penalizes you. So that's why I recommend, if you want to use the, you know, took a career break, feel free to do so, whether it's to stay home to take care of raising children or take care of a parent, or you're taking a hiatus, whatever. But if you want to get more profile views and you want to drive more recruiters to find you in search results, the technique is linked to a company page. So whether it's leaving an employer open and putting it in past tense, as you suggested, Linda, or maybe adding in one of those open to work company pages, linking to that page, putting your targeted job title as your quote unquote role within the company. Or alternatively, if you belong to any professional organizations, networking groups, for example, I might put member of Toastmasters International, but I might also put member slash, seeking marketing director position as my job title. So that way I'm linking it to an organization page. So it helps me to come up with more search results. But we want it to be clear to recruiters who land on our profile that we are looking for a new position. So I think it's really important to use the description field to spell that out. Does that help, Linda?
It does. Thank you. And that's exactly what I wanted to say. You just said it so much better than I did. Chris.
Oh, yeah, just had a question. Like, I'm currently in the midst of training to transfer into cybersecurity. So, just to show that activity in LinkedIn, what's the recommendation as far as showing that activity within LinkedIn in your profile?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So, I'm currently in training in a program that's going to last from now until July. So, that's an activity I'm doing on top of the job search. So, how do I show that activity within my LinkedIn profile without it convoluting that I'm not like I'm doing something other than just job searching?
So a couple of things. I'm sorry, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. That doesn't always work. So one of the things that you can do is use some of those placeholder companies, and I'm going to put a link to some of those companies in the chat. Okay. When you're using a placeholder company, the placeholder company is the name of the company, and your job title is whatever it is you're looking for. And then you list under that, while looking for my next opportunity as XYZ, I've been taking courses in X, Y, and Z as a way of increasing my skills and looking for that. So that's one way of doing it. You also include it in your LinkedIn profile under training, and you can put it in your about section. So there are lots of different ways of adding it to what it is you want to do. Okay. While I'm going to continue to type, Sue, would you like to chime in?
Sure. Actually, you said most everything that needed to be said, but here's the opportunity. And I've seen this over and over again on LinkedIn and resumes. People love to tell me they've been to training. No one tells me what you've done with it. You've got to show that you're using it, applying the experience even as it goes along. for people that are in training now. Make sure you talk about, are you using real data sets? If you're using data sets contrived by a professor or the facilitator, that's okay, that's practice. But if you're using real data sets, it helps people see things they may know that they want to hire you for. Volunteer to make, I don't know, make some coded database for your local food bank or something like that. You can find ways to apply it in real world settings that will get you towards the, training's important. And you're saying, I'm not just job searching, this is all professional development, like coming here today. But make sure you link it to the ultimate, which is what experience do you have? I can walk out the door in June, I think you said. I can walk out the door in June, and by then I will have done not only the 2 data sets I've already worked on that show that, you know, SNAP recipients all shop in bodegas in one place, or you can say by the end of that time, I will have handled 5 federal and 2 state data sets. Just something that gives people, and there you have your numbers. Okay, I'll stop talking about evidence.
One of the things that I also recommend, so you'll see if you're posting on LinkedIn that you've just taken a course, I usually come back, not only say congratulations, but I say, what did you learn? What was the most important thing that you learned? What's one thing you can share? Because that's another way of reminding you to talk about that value. Taking the class is one thing, adding it to your profile is one thing, but talking about what you gained and what, more importantly, how you can use it is an important thing as well. So absolutely. Brenda. Did I lose you? Okay.
Sorry, that was a residual hand from before.
No problem. I do that all the time. Okay.
Mine is not a residual.
I know, I'm trying to,
Oh,
I
okay,
can't
sorry.
highlight you, Jim, unless you turn your camera on.
I did. I turned it off. You made a great point about posting on LinkedIn. You can write articles. Make sure, Chris, this is great because I've been doing it lately for the past week or so. Whatever I discover, like I find bugs in code and I post it. Make a post about it. I put hashtags. I use little emojis and stuff. I did a survey. I put a survey out. I was so disappointed in the results of the survey. Only like 10 people responded and I got like 400 impressions. But, you take it, right? But definitely like Linda said, post on LinkedIn and see what kind of reactions you get. It's really awesome. Yeah.
And even if you're not getting a lot of people responding to the post, it's still out there. It still increases your visibility. If you, by the way, see something that you think is really good, comment on it. That increases the visibility, not only for the original poster, but for everybody in your network as well. So it's really important. So David Mills, you're on the call someplace.
I'm right here. Why?
Why? Because you post a lot of the training that you're doing.
Right. I figured it's something I can crow about, so I might as well do that.
Exactly. And one of the things that's important when you do that, David, that you do well, is you talk about what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And David knows that I will sometimes reach out in a post and say, okay, so what was the most important thing? What's one thing you can share?
I usually have to think about that a bit. But generally speaking, I don't really know what to post on LinkedIn. I mean, you get all the experts posting this cool stuff about the resources, and you get whole like 80-page books posted and things like that. So I can't really post stuff like that, but posting course accomplishments is one way to get my name out there, I figure.
It is. And it's not just course accomplishments. I would include something about it in your post or in a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to be able to use this in my next opportunity to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Share what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
As Sue mentioned, if you can, talk about one tangible. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that shows us not only that you've taken the class, but that you learned something and that you can apply it as well.
Mm-hmm. I think some people might think that I post my certificates a little too much, but Anyway, I've kind of done most of the coursework that I'm going to do. And now I'm just involved in applying for jobs.
So that's actually a great post,
Mhm.
David. Oh,
What?
as
That
over
is?
the last several months, I've been taking lots of courses you've been doing them in AI.
I was trying to get my skills up, but now I
Right.
have to just
And now I'm
get-
excited because I can see all these possibilities.
Mhm.
So I would put out a new open to work talking about that.
Mhm.
Okay, not just the idea of the job titles that you're looking for, but excited to use your skills that you've learned in generative AI.
Mhm.
Okay, in your next opportunity, doing X, Y, and Z.
I took just one AI course. I don't think I posted about it, but there are
Sorry, that's
so
the
many
one that stuck in my head.
others one could take.
Okay, so what kinds of things are you looking for, David?
Job wise, I'm looking for a position as a data analyst. That would be my first data analyst position. Um, I've also been looking a little bit at business intelligence analyst positions, which I think are very similar.
They
I
are.
should maybe make a post and find out because they're similar, but they're not exactly the same. So I have to maybe post about that and see how it's
Yeah.
different.
And start doing some informational networking with people in those roles, David.
Yeah.
Not to ask for jobs, but ask what they did to get there.
Yeah.
What they like, what they don't.
But I keep sending out applications and some of them say thanks, but no thanks. Most of them don't say anything and it just dies there. I don't know if that's normal, but it's what's happening to me.
Unfortunately, it is normal.
A lot of people just don't get a response.
Yep.
Mhm.
But doesn't mean that you're not going to get a response.
Mhm.
I had one person who sent out a resume and applied for a position in February,
Mhm.
heard back from the company in November.
Oh my God.
Okay. And actually went through an interview process. And
It's like with the US Census when I applied in like February of, well, they called me a year after they applied.
yeah.
But anyhow.
So, yeah, unfortunately, the response process is broken. It should be a very easy fix,
Yeah.
but don't give up. But
Yeah.
also
Well,
don't stop
no, I
applying.
can't afford to give up.
Nope. Don't stop applying. So remember though, that when you are applying, whether you're going through your network, whether you're going through direct application, you need to make sure that you're demonstrating how you fit that new job.
Mhm.
It's all about them. It's not about you.
Mhm.
It's not just what you want to do, it's what you can do, which is one of the reasons that when you're posting about those classes that you're taking, tell
Mhm.
us how you're going to use it. Tell us what you learned.
Mhm.
If you can give some sort of a data point, as Sue mentioned, that's great.
Mhm. And it takes a good while to find a job on a job board that kind of sort of matches my skill set that's appropriate to me. You can't just go out and apply to 20 places.
No,
You
and that's
have
one
the
of the
20
problems
right
that's
places.
actually breaking the application process. Okay, we're finding that companies are seeing that if they get 500 resumes,
Mhm.
maybe 10% are worth looking at.
Really, that bad?
Yeah, because it's too easy to send out either a generic resume or to have a bot just do it for you, or to have AI do it for you. So be careful
I've
with
heard that AI, you don't want to leave it to AI or have an AI resume or cover letter because
No.
companies are catching on to that.
Not only are companies catching on to that, their ATS systems are catching on to it.
Oh.
And what recruiters are telling us is that I don't want to know what the AI says. I want to see how you write, how you speak, what's important to you. Because on the job, you're not going to have AI doing all of this for you. You need to be able to respond off the top of your head. You need to be able to demonstrate who you are, because I want that authentic person, that person I can know, like, and trust. And if it's generated by AI, that doesn't do it. Okay, or spraying and praying,
No.
sending the same resume out to everyone.
Which is what I do a lot of.
You have to customize it for the job.
But if it, yeah, true. But if you're sending it to 5 data analyst positions, then you pretty much use the same resume, unless it's a different type of position.
You can use the same basic resume in the experience section and beyond, but you still need to demonstrate to me on the other side of the desk or the screen why you want my job, that you've read my description.
Yeah, maybe that's why I should include a cover letter.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
So we're actually doing something on resume do's and don'ts and application do's and don'ts. I think the last Wednesday of March, and I don't remember the date.
Yeah.
But we are going to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for your time and for reaching out.
Okay. We've gone a little over, and that's okay with me. The important thing with the gaps is that you need to own it. And I know we haven't even gotten to that conversation yet, but it's not just owning it on LinkedIn, it's owning it in your conversations. What have you done during that time away? Whether it's caretaking, whether it's because of a layoff, whether you're looking for that next right job for you, you need to explain what you've been doing in the meantime to help advance your skills to put all of that together. One of the things that we can do is the idea of listing, for example, if you had a number of short-term jobs, list them all together on LinkedIn as well as on your resume. You can list them as contract opportunities. You can list them as short-term roles. You can list them as that open to work with one of those new companies. And I added that in the chat, some of those links, and I'll add some more in our private group as well. But you can list them and then list either the opportunities, the companies underneath that, while looking for your next forever job to do this, your next full-time job doing this. List those jobs, list the courses, list what you've been doing. And somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Sue, talked about you may have taken time off to be a caretaker. Or maybe it was Brenda. Caring for other people is important. But even while you're doing that, it's not that you're, I don't want to say just because I know how important that is, but doing that, you're doing advocacy, you're doing outreach, you're doing budgeting, you're doing calendar management. Okay. There are so many skills that you're bringing into that mix while you are doing those roles. So we want to emphasize those skills, not just, and forgive me for using the word just, but not as part of what it is you've been doing during that time away, during that career break. Other questions? And I know that we didn't get to all of it, and I apologize, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just another couple of things into the chat real quick. Okay, if we haven't connected yet, let's do so, please. And I'm happy to have a quick chat with anyone. Okay. In addition, I really do want to know what you want to talk about in these lunch and learn sessions. Reach out, let me know how I can help. Make sure that I'm going to turn off the recording, by the way. There we go. I'm going to add the link to our private group in the chat. Introduce yourself there. There we go. In the private group, I will add a copy of today's chat. I will add an AI summary. Okay, as well as the resources that we talked about. Private group means that it is available on LinkedIn, but you have to ask to be admitted to the group. And the only people who are admitted to that group, you can't find it directly on LinkedIn, but the only people who can find that group are those who either have attended these sessions and have seen it here in the chat, or those who've registered If you are in one of those two groups, those are the only people who can join that private group. And at this point, we have, I think, close to 400 people. It's a way that you can share job opportunities, you can share questions, you can get support, you can raise issues that you want us to talk about. If you want to copy the chat yourself, and I highly recommend it, go to the top of the chat box where it says Job Search Lunch and Learn, and you'll see 3 dots. If you click on the 3 dots, it'll say Save Chat. Now, I don't know, Marianne, if you're still on the chat at all, but if it works on a PC, I don't know whether it works anywhere else, but I will post the entire chat in our private group within the hour so that it's
Yes,
there.
I'm here, Linda. I'm a big proponent of the 3 dots, save the chat.
It really works, okay? You can also do it the old-fashioned way, which is to put your cursor at the bottom of the screen and scroll all the way up.
Oh, that takes forever.
Of course it does. And then copy and paste, but that's another way to do it. So lots of different opportunities. Connect with each other, connect with me. Let's share our resources and continue to do this networking. Now, I know we didn't completely cover this topic, but if it's one that you want us to come back to, okay, especially in terms of how do you talk about it to an employer, then let me know and either put it in caps in the chat in terms of topic, or add it to that Google Doc, put it in our private group, and again, say topic idea. Lots of ways that we can do this. But in terms of dealing with it for an employer, because we really didn't get to that, for an employer's perspective, what you want to do is explain that while you've been job searching, or while you've been doing X, and looking for that next forever job, you've been doing X, Y, and Z to build your skill set, add additional opportunities. And those, as a recruiter, I will tell you that that kind of a response works. Everybody knows that in this job market, as well as in many others, finding that next immediate job is really tough. It's going to take you some time. We recognize that that happens. So acknowledge the elephant in the room, talk about what you've been doing, talk about what you want to do, and quickly transition that conversation from the gap, the acknowledgement, and what you've done to how you want to then use it in your next role. Take control of that conversation. And most employers, most recruiters will follow your lead in that way. Okay. If you have additional questions about that, let me know. If you want to talk about it individually, we can do that too. In any event, I'm going to stay on for a little bit. Those of you who've hung in here, thank you very much. If you have additional questions, I'm happy to listen. Okay. Yes, we will come back to this topic. Thank you. Okay. Erin, tell me specifically, either in the chat or in a DM on LinkedIn, what specifically you'd like us to talk about so that we can make sure that we get that going. Okay. Thank you all. Please connect with me. Please reach out for a chat. I'm here for you.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank
Thanks,
you. You all
everybody.
too.
Thank you, Linda. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks. Have a good week.
Stay healthy.
Thanks, Brenda.
Good afternoon.
Oops.
This is Alexander Noskov. Linda, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry, I had my mic on.
No, that's fine. Can I name the company in our conversation?
I'm sorry, a little louder.
Can I name the company in our that I have a question about?
Sure.
So it's a Bank of New York, right? So I applied to the Bank of New York job in November of last year. In the beginning of February, they reached out to me and, through HR people that are located in India and scheduled 2 interviews. The first interview was with the Indian manager, and then the second interview was with the US manager. So the Indian manager interview, the person didn't show up. It was rescheduled. It didn't show up. It was rescheduled. Didn't show up third time, and then never heard ever again. Now I did have an interview with the US person last week. He apologized for that Indian person. The interview was scheduled for half an hour. We spoke for almost an hour because, it was my first interview. I needed information and everything else. So obviously, naturally, took more than, half an hour before, because he was answering my questions before, he started asking me questions. So I guess the question is, if I don't hear, from them for the next 2 weeks, I guess what from your professional experience, what should I do? Can I follow up with those HR people? Because the reason I'm asking, because after the third no-show, I sent them 2 emails and I never heard back from them.
So honestly, I'd walk away. If they're not showing up for the interviews that they set up, and you responded and said, we need to do you want to reschedule? Number one, they're being very unprofessional. Okay. They're telling you what it's going to be like when you're working there. This is not a situation that I would recommend that you continue with. Now, I can't tell you what to do, but if it were me, 1 no-show, maybe 2 no-shows, I'm done.
And then that's my thinking too. But talking to the US person, the US manager, he did explain that the bank has a high turnover of employees, which Bank of New York Mellon is known for that because they're not.
Okay, so high turnover of employees is another red flag.
Correct.
Okay.
But Alex does need a job because I've been unemployed. Well, technically, I was laid off in July, but I was getting paid through December, right? So, got severance and another stuff. So, but theoretically, I haven't been working for the past 9 months. So at some point it'll become like one of your examples, economical job.
I understand, but in any event, you need to decide whether or not it's important. But from my coaching standpoint, my recruiter standpoint, my HR standpoint, if they're ghosting you, if they set things up and they're not following up, if they haven't gotten back to you when they didn't show up without you prompting them and saying, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. You need to decide whether or not this is an organization you want to work with. But my recommendation is, in terms of follow-up, you're done. You may do 1 more to the HR person. Okay.
Well, I was thinking because I did email the US manager, and then he's not the manager. He's like he would be like a peer, right? Because we would work for the same person, and then the main manager is located. Well, I know it's a Bank of New York Mellon, but the main person is located in UK, the boss. So you have UK manager, US peer, and then offshore peer in India. So it's a
Maybe,
little
but
bit.
it's still telling you something about the company and the way they operate and the way they would deal with you as an employee. You get to make the decision. My recommendation is, okay, and it's only my recommendation.
No. Well, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, is that if you want to do 1 more follow-up, you're done. Okay, but put it in
not
their
with the HR, with the person that I interviewed from US, because I did send them email, thank you letter, and everything else, the next morning, and I do have a couple friends that work at Bank of New York, so they gave me his email address so that it doesn't bounce out. So it went through. I know, but those two, my former colleagues, I mean, they worked for like 3-4 years, and then they fine. It depends on on your role, right? And then where.
I understand. So it sounds to me as though you want to continue to pursue it with this company.
For now, yes.
Okay, then go ahead and do it, but don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Oh no, I'm not putting any. I'm not. I stopped.
Okay,
doing
but
that.
I will tell you that I don't know exactly what to tell you anymore, but
Mhm.
I would say that if you want to, then reach out to whoever you have the email address for. Okay, especially the US person, and then be done.
Okay.
One more time and be done. If they want you, they will reach back out to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I copy those two HR contacts that stopped responding to me, or just send it to him?
You can copy them all, you can send it to all of them, but my personal response, okay, if it were me,
Mhm.
I would have walked away after the second no-show.
Well, I understand why you're saying it, but both interviews were scheduled like kind of on at the same time.
It makes no difference. It honestly makes no difference. If they're setting something up, they're not showing and they're not sending you anything saying, we're sorry we missed it. They're
Mhm.
waiting for you to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
That is not that is not a company I would pursue. I can't tell you for you,
No,
but
I
I will
know.
tell you
But
that is a company I would walk away from.
so then so what you're saying, I shouldn't even show up to that second interview.
If they didn't show up, what is that telling you about them and the company? If they didn't respond to in advance, if they didn't reach out to you and say, we're sorry we missed it, something came up, totally apologize.
Yes.
Here's
Well, I
another
know.
date. What works for you? They're
But
not making that initial no.
that's not in the Indian culture.
It doesn't make any difference.
I know.
That may not be part of the Indian culture, but it's not just an Indian company.
I know. But okay. Thank you.
So, if
So
it's
I'll
not an
wait.
Indian, you have to decide if it's I don't know the Indian culture. You're absolutely right. Okay.
No, okay. So I'll wait for 2 weeks to be over, which is next week, and then follow up with email, because he did say that he will talk to his manager, and
Then
then
follow up.
bring the no-show to his attention, because he wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah.
But he does work with that guy, in India, so he was like,
yeah,
interesting. I said three no-shows.
Yeah. It is not the way that things are done for US companies.
Correct. But he did apologize.
But is the job going to be in the US or is it going to be in India?
Oh, of course, US.
In which case the US needs to know and they need to correct it.
Okay. Thank you for your opinion.
You're welcome.
I
Good luck.
appreciate it.
Keep
Thank
me
you.
posted.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
David, was there still something you needed?
No, there isn't. I'm good. I just thought I was supposed to stay on.
Nope. You can go off anytime you like.
Okay, well, I'm going to save this and then I'm going to head on my way. Thank you very much and for letting me share my story, for all the insight you've given me.
Keep us posted. Let us know what happens. Let me know how I
Will
can
do.
help.
Will do.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm going to close the room in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. David, did you get the chat? 4, 3,